And I suppose that one of the kind of core ideas of the biennial is to get people to, through a sort of series of contrasting exhibitions, to think about how these images, as I say, are used and circulated, how we consume them, what our relationship to them is, how they're manipulated, and all of those sorts of elements. And also to think about not only media as producing images such as these, but also about the state and other bodies as media producing institutions, in particular the military. So, you know, one of the things we'll be looking at the University of Brighton show, which is devoted to a comparison of Vietnam and Iraq as media wars, will be official military productions of imagery, and again, what those things are designed to do for us. And the media, of course, have changed enormously in the 30 years or so since the Vietnam War ended. In many ways, you know, and one of the things we'll be looking at here is sort of photojournalism as an industry, in many ways. Some of you may know that this is James McVeigh there in the centre. So to think about the way in which it's changed, in particular perhaps the way in which the mainstream media has become, well, the ownership of it has become more concentrated. It's become increasingly run very strictly as a business rather than as to produce, you know, particular political outcomes, which has meant that journalists have less and less time to work on particular stories. It's all about the flow of immediate news, but also definitely a kind of a greater conservatism in that media too. So there were images which were shown at the time of the Vietnam War, which really would not be shown now, and to think about the reasons for that. And as against that, though, that in the online world, there's been this incredible opening up of samizdat sites and literature and photographs, and you can find anything there that you want. Obviously, there are pro and anti-war sites of every hue. Furious political controversies circulate around photojournalistic images, and at the extremes there are sites which display images of dismemberment and torture for people's entertainment, or images of truck bombings or beheadings to fortify the resistance. So, you know, there's that incredible sort of production is also something as against the media realm that we'll be looking at. And I mean, one of the consequences too of that changing mediascape, in particular the decline of the illustrated magazines and of a very rich market for photojournalism, which certainly existed in the 60s and to some extent the 70s, is that many photojournalists have been turning away or complementing at least their practice by making art photographs. And one example here is Luc Delahaye. And so one of the things we'll be doing too is looking at the role of the art world in this, and the way in which the art world sort of sets itself aside from photojournalism and offers a kind of critique of it, although one which is also comfortably sits within the realm of museum photography, which we're so familiar with. And indeed one of the three main group shows of the biennial to be shown at the Delavar Pavilion in Bexhill, and called The Sublime Image of Destruction, we'll be looking at that very type of production, partly as a genre, and asking questions about it as a genre. And, well, we have 10 shows and many extraordinary, well, I hope it will be extraordinary, monographic shows by people like Harriet Logan, working with women in Afghanistan, and Geert van Kesteren, working with mobile phone imagery from Iraqi refugees, people exchanging images across borders into and out of Iraq. Thomas Hirschhorn, who will be dealing with some of the worst imagery to come out of the recent wars, an extraordinary installation piece. Philip James Griffiths, and others. So there's a lot there. But there are also three major group shows. The one I just mentioned on the Sublime Image of Destruction. The show in the University of Brighton gathers on the contrast between Iraq and Vietnam. and showing in the Vietnam section images from both sides, and this is extremely important. This is a photograph by an unidentified North Vietnamese photographer showing women training in North Vietnam. And I mean, there is an extraordinary photographic production which comes out of photographers working with the North Vietnamese Army and the National Liberation Front, otherwise known as the Viet Cong, which offers a remarkable perspective on much better known productions of Western photojournalists.